This is your Adventist News, the service of the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. I'm Latoya Burrows. Coming up in this week's broadcast, Adventist named as commander of our nation's defense forces, the government allows churches to return to their buildings, and Ignite Youth Retreat held in cyberspace. These stories and more on this week's broadcast of the Adventist News. Thanks for joining us for this week's Adventist News. On May 2nd, 2020, Dr. Raymond King was officially sworn in as the new commander of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, making him the first Seventh-day Adventist to occupy this prestigious position. Commander King and his wife Frederica are members of the Bethany Church located in Westridge in our nation's capital. After being sworn in as the 8th commander to lead this group of men and women, Commander King, in speaking with Laverne Stirrup, Communication Director of the South Bahamas Conference, in a candid interview, spoke of his plans for the future.
Major change is to strengthen our maritime domain awareness. We have several major pieces of advanced technology that are slowly being unfolded, which it makes us even more efficient and effective at what we do in terms of detecting, tracking, and intercepting threats to our borders. Another major accomplishment I would like to achieve is the accreditation status for our organization. I want to transform our training department into an accredited institution, a center of excellence, whereby we can brand it as the Maritime Defense Training Institute. There is also a need to establish a search and rescue unit led by a dedicated SAR coordinator and a rescue coordination center. And so those are just a few of the major changes I intend to follow through.
In being that agent of change and transformation for the Marines, Commander King believes that his training has prepared him for his newest assignment.
The mid part of my career, it was more geared towards personal management, but we placed more emphasis then on disaster management, understanding the disaster management process, given that we live in a hurricane zone, as well as crisis management, mass casualty incident management, so we focus on those, as well as we started on some strategic studies, policy and strategy formulation, advanced policy making, and those were geared towards preparing us to respond to natural disasters, as well as how do we address our transnational threats, illegal smuggling, human smuggling, drug trafficking, arms and ammunition smuggling.
The 33-plus years of preparation, coupled with the fact that Commander King heavily relies on his faith in God, charts his path as he leads.
Most definitely, I see myself as an agent of change, primarily because of my transformational leadership style. I have and continue to work through the men and women of this august organization to identify the changes that are needed and to inspire those persons, whereby I allow them to be innovative and creative, and as a guide in terms of how we would accomplish those changes and being able to work through the members in terms of achieving those strategic objectives.
Commander Raymond King has a mammoth task ahead of him, but in these words, he spoke of what he wanted his legacy to be.
When I was an Adventist and consistent with my faith, I want to be known as someone who had a strong moral compass, who appreciated the ethical side of doing business, one who was firm and fair, who sought organizational equity, who appreciate the need to forgive persons. And that is where the continuous improvement comes in, with the performance excellence. You're going to make manageable mistakes. The concern comes with not allowing those to recur. And in order to continue to improve what you do, you're going to make some mistakes along the way. And so to have the spirit of forgiveness.
The Seventh-day Adventists salute Commander King on his new accomplishment, and the president of the South Bahamas Conference, Pastor Kenny DeVoe, gave a statement saying, "I am delighted to congratulate Dr. Raymond King on this phenomenal appointment as Commodore of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. His installation is a marvelous opportunity for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Bahamas. I encourage our members to keep Dr. King before the throne of grace always, so that God will sustain, preserve, and direct his path." We would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the ladies and gentlemen who have also excelled within our armed forces, and we pray that God will continue to sustain you as you faithfully serve our country. For months, our congregations have been limited in worshiping online, and beginning this weekend, a number of our churches will be allowed to meet within their sanctuaries. This, of course, comes with strict protocols stipulated by the government of the Bahamas. Namely, 1, the churches are to provide hand sanitizers at the entrance of the church. 2, persons are to sit 6 feet apart except if they are from the same immediate household. 3, all persons are to wear masks covering their nose and mouths. 4, persons are also to remain in or at their seats. 5, Sabbath school in our case, or Sunday school, is not permitted for our children. Number 6, communion may be held using disposable cups, and distributors must wear masks and gloves. They must exercise proper hygiene and sanitation measures. Number 7, there will be one offering station and baskets not passed around. Number 8, persons in high-risk categories are asked to not attend the service, and this includes those 65 years and older. Even though a number of our membership within our conference have been looking forward to going back to their buildings, a number of persons have mixed feelings about this return.
I feel good about going back to church because I think it's time for us to reunite with our fellow members and visitors alike. Being in the banking industry, we've never closed, and we put various protocols in place to ensure that everyone remains safe. So as long as we follow the proper protocols, like sanitizing, wearing our face masks, and social distancing, I feel confident that the Lord will honor our efforts and will bless us with his protection.
We have to be wise. God is not going to leave us because we didn't go in the sanctuary. We are his sanctuary. And it's good, and I believe he wants us to physically be in a church once more. But we will not lose our spirituality. We need to be patient. So while only 30 people may be in church, there might be 300 more outside the church, and next week another 30. That's a good thing. Let's start patiently. Let's be patient.
We continue to pray for smooth transitions back to our churches, and we continue to take safety precautions as advised. The youth department of our conference held its annual Ignite Youth Retreat virtually over the weekend. The retreat was streamed live on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube, reaching over 2,000 plus persons. This event that was intended to be a physical gathering quickly became one of the department's most anticipated yearly events.
One of the things that I can safely say was a major difference between both years was that in 2019 we had it at the New Providence Community Center, where everyone was able to interact with one another. We were able to see all of the churches right there inside of the building, and we were also able to interact with the speaker and ask certain questions and be able to get a feel for how his dynamic was. Whereas with the 2020 version, as we all know, based on what happened inside of the Bahamas and around the world due to COVID-19, we were only limited to taking the approach of Zoom and YouTube and Facebook and other platforms like that. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because we were able to not only touch the hearts of people in the family islands that weren't able to come and watch and everything, we were able to touch people around the world. I know of certain friends and family members that partook in the event through Facebook in the United States, and some others in Canada and the UK and whatnot. So I feel as though that was a very, very inspirational and very great way to reach and outreach to those around us, not even in our own backyard.
Objectives of the youth department in this year's event was to highlight the Family Island youth, Bahamian Adventist musical artists, and spoken word along with other music ministers. Throughout the weekend, the virtual audience was blessed by the unique ways our youth expressed their love and passion for praising God. The guest speaker for the weekend was Pastor Seth Yelora from Relove Seventh-day Adventist Church in Sacramento, California. He challenged the youth to lead their churches from tradition-driven to vision-driven in fulfilling the mission of the church.
And God says, you, the church, I created you not to have a program once a week. That's not why I created the church. I created the church to be an unstoppable force that rushes into hell and that rescues people who are in bondage and sets them free. And I promise you that hell won't be able to stop you. This is the purpose of the church, that the church is to be on offense. But all too often, the church is on defense. All too often, the church plays it safe, where we have our buildings, we have our programs, we have our traditions, we have our music, we have our hymns, we have our preaching, we have our Sabbath schools and our Pathfinders, we have our traditions, and they're all good. But that's what the church has become about. We haven't become about setting people free in the clubs or.
Assistant Youth Director Pastor Alvarico Moss also spoke about the experience and feedback from the youth.
Hello everyone, Pastor Moss here. I just want to say, man, listen, virtual Ignite. I know, the COVID-19 thing almost had a little rain on our parade, but we were still able to have an awesome time. Man, I want to talk about the music. On point. The talent that we have here in the Bahamas, it's amazing. And I think it definitely lights a fire that we can invest more in our young people to see what they can bring to the table. And who could forget the speaker, Pastor Seth. Man, talk about it. One of the things that stood out to me was when he made the statement, or he asked the question, what is your church doing? Is your church on offense or is it on defense? And I think that just lit a fire in our young people to say, hey, what has God called me to do? How can I be effective in my community, in my church? And I know that God has given each and every one of us a gift.
Breakout discussions were held on Zoom for the leaders to interact with the youth on how they could together shape a vision for ministry in our local churches post-COVID-19. Please stay tuned. We'll have your upcoming events after this short break. Welcome back to your Adventist News. Coming up in the South Bahamas Conference. The Bible class for the South Bahamas Conference continues via Zoom this Sunday, June 7th, 2020, with Pastor Lyndon Williams at 6:30 p.m. The topic will be Sex and the Scriptures. For more information on these events and more, please visit the conference website at www.southbahamasconference.org, where you can view the news as well as various programming and read the weekly logos.
It is said that children are our future, but they are not only the future, they are our now. Kids are like sponges. They suck up everything they see or learn. Here are some healthy tips for healthy habits. When you and your children feel like snacking, instead of reaching for cookies or chips, which are high in calories and low in nutrients, try reaching for snacks such as fruits, unsalted nuts, or air-popped popcorn. Oftentimes, we reach for sugary drinks and juice. Although some juices are healthy energy boosters, make water their first choice. Eating in front of the television is very tempting. Instead, encourage your children to eat at the table, which will help with their social skills. Fruits and vegetables come in many different colors. Each color has its own set of unique disease-fighting chemicals. Make eating fun for your kids by preparing a colorful snack and cut them into different shapes, making eating more interesting. Why not try these fun snacks and provide our children with a bright, healthy future? I am Parisha Ferguson with your health tip, courtesy of Adventist Television. And remember, God wants us to prosper and be in good health.
We go now to our news feature from around the world with the Adventist News Network.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, Adventist leaders of both the Seventh-day Adventist Church's world headquarters and the North American division are speaking out after the death of George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man who was arrested after being accused of using a counterfeit $20 bill.
On May 25, Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes as Floyd and bystanders begged him to stop. Floyd was handcuffed at the time and not a threat. He was declared dead at a hospital a short time later.
Floyd's death has sparked outrage and protests around the world. All 4 of the police officers who were part of Floyd's death have been fired, and Chauvin has been charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter.
Floyd's death comes on the heels of the senseless deaths of 2 other African Americans. Breonna Taylor, who was sleeping in her home when plainclothes police officers mistakenly broke into her home during a drug raid, and Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed while jogging.
President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, said in a statement, "In this time of pain and unrest across the United States, our hearts continue to go out in sympathy to all who have suffered, and especially to the families of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, whose lives ended tragically. As Seventh-day Adventists, we stand together worldwide in condemning racism, bigotry, hatred, prejudice, and violence in all of its myriad forms. We know that God is a God of justice who sees and knows all, and we look to him to fulfill his word when he says, 'Vengeance is mine, I will repay.'"
Wilson also said in his statement that he had sent letters of condolence to the families of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd on behalf of the Adventist Church, expressing sorrow for the tragic loss of their loved ones and stating unequivocally that as Seventh-day Adventists, we stand strongly on the biblical principles that go against hatred, rage, racism, bigotry, evil surmising, prejudice, and more. The letter also offered the families support, hope, and encouragement through God's church.
Wilson also encouraged each Seventh-day Adventist to reach out to individuals within their local community to bring peace, comfort, hope, and courage that only Christ can provide.
You can read the full story at news.adventist.org.
That brings us to the end of Adventist News from the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Please feel free to share what is happening at your church by sending us your news stories and upcoming events. Email them to sbcadventistnews@gmail.com. To view a rebroadcast of the Adventist News along with other programming or to keep in touch with what's happening in our conference, please visit and subscribe to the conference website, our YouTube channel, and our Facebook and Instagram pages. On behalf of our production team of Adventist Television Channel 658, have a happy Sabbath and thank you for watching this week's broadcast. I'm Latoya Burrows for the SBC Media Network.